welcome to again with the Bayou City Soccer. And we're here once again with another edition for our Orange and Blueprints. Well, it was good. It was a good weekend. I think it was a goodness win, especially a home win for the Houston Dash. Well, as you can start, I'm your host, Manny Olivares, but I'm not here alone. I got my co-host Diego. Say hello, Diego.
What's good? What's good, fam? How we doing? I'm extra happy because I told you guys that we would have a happy podcast eventually, and it has finally come. It has finally arrived. Our first home win of the season, our first home win under new head coach Fabrice Gautreau. Gautreau? Gautreau?
Good try.
Gautrat. Damn, he's not gonna be happy with me about that one. But new win for our head coach at home. He gets to finally experience the bright lights at the Shell smiling over him as he gets to celebrate a 1-0 win against the Utah Royals. But there's so much to talk about, and I'm so excited to get it right into it.
Yeah, so I know it's a good win. I think most importantly, as we mentioned it like last podcast, and we're gonna mention more today. I think most importantly, how a home win can change, perspective on the team, and especially for fans who shows up to every game. So we'll review that, give our thoughts about the game. Also, we're gonna preview our next home game this Friday as well against Racing Louisville. I don't know what they pronounce. I always know like is it Racing or Racing?
I'm
But
gonna ask Chris about the Argentinian population in
yeah,
Louisville. See
uh,
see his input on that one.
yeah, because I know like I think they were going for that, but I think it's just like but we'll see. But
Hmm.
I think let's go to the 1-0 win against the Utah Royals. I think that was last Friday. It was a really pretty dominant performance from the Houston Dash. Offensive wise, creative wise, I feel like they were really good on the ball and everything. Of course, it's their first appearance every back from her injury from the U.S. national team. Westfall still kept her position in defense, and I think more importantly, I think the ones that two people that got the huge headlines, uh, Maggie Graham taking over Barbara Riveri's position, and of course, Sheehan's performance was not only the goal, but her performance was key in this game. Of course, her goal should have been should I don't know if the NW still has to finish counting if she won the goal of the week, but most of all, I
Hmm.
think she should have won the goal of the week. I gotta check on by that. But Diego, I want to see your thoughts, your initial thoughts of this 1-0 victory.
I mean, it was a beautiful way to win. I think 1-0 initially looks like the worst way that you could win and the most boring way to win it. But I mean, you nailed it on the dot. The Dash were dominant in possession, which is kind of the way that they're trying to play under Fabrice Gautrat. I think this style of possession has really hurt them because of their lack of chemistry, but we're really now seeing them gel, get into their rhythms, and seeing players like Maggie get the opportunity to play in one of her natural positions. Delanie Sheehan's been incredible. I think we can all attest to how she's been fitting into this Dash team. And one thing that we haven't seen from her that we have here in Houston is her goal scoring threat. We're finally seeing different players step up to that scoring mantle when our number 9 isn't necessarily putting in the goals. I think we notched 57%, no, 43% possession over their 57%, which is a little less, especially when I'm mentioning that we're dominating on the possession. But with that 43%, we were far more useful and effective when it came to the 319 passes that were able to string together. I think this was one of those games where it's like statistically you're not looking very good, but the product on the field is looking great. And those kinds of games, you really have to throw your hands up in the air and enjoy it because those come fewer and far between.
Yes, exactly. And just to recap before I forget, no, did not win the golden the goal of the week is obviously Riley Turner from Portland.
That
Uh,
is a robbery. I'm sorry. That's a
yeah,
robbery.
but it was like by 1 point. It was
Oh,
fine.
oh my god.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. It was a tight race. I think Riley Turner's goal was actually pretty good as well. But
Hmm.
I think just the moment, and I think Gabe winning goal from Sheehan should have niched it on top. But it is what it is. But I think you hit all the good points. I think most importantly, I think before the game started, I think everyone's headlines was Barbara being benched,
Hmm.
and we were thinking, I think the lineup was like, okay, Barbara's being benched. Who's gonna take up her position? I think the natural thought was, okay, Ryan Garris is gonna take her
Hmm.
position, but it happened to be Maggie, in that forward, more upper echelon in the final third position. But I think
Hmm.
it actually benefited a lot from the dash. I think because maybe Maggie's not the quickest, but yes, she's very more technical. She knows how to be in the right position at the right time, knows how to hustle, knows how to move back and forth. I think, but also it gave a boost to the team. I think give it more a natural outlet, her on the wing. But I think the one I didn't expect is that uh, for Barbara being benched and getting put on in the second half, she had more grit in her game. I think she
Hmm.
had more energy. I think you think moving forward, you think this is a good tactic for Breeze to have her more in that position, or I think it's just, or was it sending a message more to Barbara to be like, hey, you're not undroppable for these coming games.
No, I think you put up a lot of good points. I do agree that I really liked Maggie's depth in that attacking midfielder role. I think despite her not being the quickest player, not really the best when it comes to transitional play because of that lack of speed, I think technically she's there and she's going to shape up to be a great midfielder for us. But the whole thing has been about attitude about these players, and I think Barb since the beginning has been hailed as one of the leaders of this team skill wise and talent wise. You saw it last year. There were flashes few and far between of her brilliance and of who she can really be as a player, and you see the first four games and you don't really see that in her. And so this is most likely Fabrice saying, hey, you're not starting because you're not proving to be the leader that I want you to be. And that's obviously going to upset you because nobody likes to be told that they're not playing well, and so you come on and you make an immediate impact. I think when whether you like the term super sub or not, a super sub at its core is somebody who impacts the game on a significant level once they're being substituted. And I think she really fit that description there. I don't think I see her on the bench often, and I don't think that's going to happen coming forward. However, seeing that mentality shift from this game versus games that she started earlier in the season, it really shows she still has that grit. It just needed to, be woken up a little. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Everybody needs that little wake up call every now and then. I'm just happy that it happened 4 games in and not 15.
Yeah, exactly. I think you need that shift of mentality. You need that. I think brought back to earth mentality is like, hey, like this is what I am. This is what position. The status
Hmm.
of my team. But I think it's been good to see that reaction from Barb. I think some players would be sub on back on and play sort of way they were playing if they were starting. But to see that shift in mentality, that hustle back on her and going to that game, it was pretty good to see. But I think a player that should be always highlighted is Delanie Sheehan. How crucial has she been for the dash moving from Gotham to now? I think it was like, I think we saw glimpse and everything. Okay,
Hmm.
how influenced she is in the midfield, but I think this game solidified how important a midfielder piece she is for the team. You think the team should? And I think my question is for you. I think should the team be surrounded for her? Because I feel like without her, I don't think the team has the same high tempo
Hmm.
work rate and then without her, it feels like the team is flat. You think she is that crucial for the dash?
I I think this takes me back to the offseason when we were seeing the two departures from Gotham go to Houston in Yasmin Ryan and Delanie Sheehan. I think the question within the Gotham camps and really the people that I spoke to within Gotham media was uh, obviously Ryan is a huge loss, but the biggest loss for them was Delanie Sheehan. Uh, it's that kind of effort that goes unnoticed in a player like Sheehan that you see a lot of her positioning on the ball. You see a lot of her quickness, her pace, her technicality in the midfield, her ability to stretch the defense, her ability to push the ball forward in transitional play. A lot of these aspects, like to the average eye, go completely unnoticed. And it's not until you score that out of the box half volley that you start getting the attention. I think since the very beginning her offensive output has been immeasurable and her presence has genuinely struck fear in midfields, whether it be Washington or whether it be Utah. I think I'm not really sure whether we should build around a 26-year-old right from the get go. I'm not counting it out. I'm not counting it out. I think we should just we should just trust other players on our lineup to really step up into that plate. I expect Yes to be having a bigger output offensively. I expect Barb to continue to have that spark and really, really push the tempo. I expect Nat Jacobs to come back and really hit the ball rolling, and I expect Avery Patterson, who should be back really really soon, to also be doing the same on the defensive level. So to ask a player like Delanie Sheehan, hey, we're gonna build the entire team around you, I don't think that's wise. I think we've seen that in the past. We saw that last year with D, didn't work out. We saw that 2 years ago with Maria, didn't work out. It's just not a stable way to run really any club, to just ask one player to, be like Lionel Messi or like a Tobin Heath. Um, it's just not the wisest, especially when you have so much talent that is at your disposal. And I think Fabrice knows that, but I sure think he's grateful to have her.
Yeah, I think no, I think you're right. I think only like certain players should have that, like world class players, out of this world players, like for instance, for Barcelona, Yamal, or like Messi, like players like that, or that will change the game every game, and
Hmm.
but as I think this Dash team is still finding its identity, is still finding its pieces. So it's really hard to really nail that question. But I think it's hard to, like you said, mention uh Sheehan is the heart and soul of this team. She
Hmm.
drives the tempo. She does that. I think it's good right now, but I think you would like to more players that step up. And players had this step up. The unsung hero other than her is Kaya Prico. Players like
Hmm.
her that goes unnoticed. She's just more defensive, the grit work, but she hasn't put a wrong shift all season. So players like her as well has gotten Avery Patterson. Her first
Hmm.
game back after the injury, she's semi sluggish and everything, but overall, she did put a good shift in that game as well. Also, I think one last thing before I forget, uh, I think I think the more critical thing is that it was a home win.
Hmm.
I think one of the questions during after the game, media game, or what we're talking about is like it's very interesting. The Dash would win, but never at home, and then when it's at home, it's always this long spells. It's like
Hmm.
over I think 4 or 5 months before Dash will get a win. They will get a draw, but not a win. And so, how important is for this team? I think in your eyes or as fans, for the Dash to continue to win at home. How crucial is that? Not just for the season, but I think just for the fan base.
Well, I think it's extremely crucial. It's one of the most crucial things you can do. I think all eyes are on you when you're at home, and fans want to see wins. Fans will only come if you give them a winning product, um, and the Dash haven't necessarily done that at home. I think away form has been solid, has always been all right, um, but home form has always been where there was a serious lack. I remember last year that it was a win against North Carolina, I believe. Um, People went insane over that game because it was like a win. Like they finally won. That finally, I feel like that narrative needs to switch, and they have the potential to do it with a 2-game homestand. They just knocked out the first game out of the two, and they just notched a really good win. I think Racing Louisville won't bring it easy. They know how the Dash's form has been at home, and I don't think they're going to necessarily make it easy for us. But I think this is a prime example for you to prove to your fans, hey, we're a different team. We've got a new head coach. We've got new players. We've got youth. We've got energy. But most importantly, we've got wins at home. We've got wins at home. And that's especially what's going to drive in fans, that energy, that vibe, that happiness and joy that you get from things like a home win. You're 4 or 5 games in. You've kind of been showing some really, really inconsistent form because of so many different things happening, whether it be international break, whether it be injuries, whether it be new head coach. So this is your chance to really cement consistency within your organization, and I don't see why they can't take it.
Yeah, I think so too. It's the most important. I think I think your home stands has to be your home stand. I think in football, it's always mentioned. You want to win all your games at home and draw away. That's the minimum
Mm-hmm.
you want for a successful season. If you do, uh, uh, you do get a win away, that's a bonus. Because I think gives you a leg up on the competition or a tiebreaker. But I think your minimum it should be. But I think for quite a while, the Dash does the opposite. The Dash will win away, but will
Mm-hmm.
draw or lose at home. It's
Yeah.
like it's very weird. It's very odd. But I think it's trying to do their best to do. I think have a successful season, have a better season, and I think it's just it'd be more of that as well. But I think overall the team played. Did they play very well? They were really cohesive. They're really possessive on the ball. I think the stats. I think otherwise, Utah did have I think more one-on-one opportunities, but I think the defense did their job. The
Mm-hmm.
defense. I think Jane Campbell mentioned on the post game. It's like the defense that's great, but it's a whole team effort. That
Mm-hmm.
pulled off the clean sheet at home. So it was good. I think containing players like Ali Sedner, who was really really taking control of the game on some hard, but also Thompson, the right back, was always getting high, pushing the back line, but still, it's a really good competitive match for both of them. But it was a really
Mm-hmm.
good win on that. And that puts Houston in tenth place. With 7 points, you're just 1 point off the playoff zone. But it's too early. It's really good. It's a good performance overall. But I think it's just we'll see moving forward if they can continue with that going forward. And so
Mm-hmm.
that leads us to next Friday's game with Racing Louisville. Racing Louisville is kind of hard to determine. They're kind of like a mixed bag,
Mm-hmm.
very inconsistent. Still had good players, you have some Savannah DeMello. You have, of course, Ari Borges. You still have players that will make I think a good impact against anyone, but still very inconsistent. You could take it for instance, their last match was against Portland. Portland is still on a rise, but a 3-3 draw with Portland at Portland. So it's really interesting to see that. But the only win, I think everyone's beating Chicago Stars. So just take that, with a grain of salt. That's the only win.
Mm-hmm. Because
But
they just fired their coach.
exactly, and they just fired their coach as well. So like any wins before that, it was like, well, it's a automatic win against Chicago at the moment, anytime. But I think other than that, they've lost 2 points that, like for instance, Spirit and the Wave, But I think what's your feeling going to this Friday's match against Racing Louisville?
Well, it's going to be a tough game for sure. I think. they're gonna bring their energy. And when you talk about this matchup happening in Houston, 3 out of the 4 previous matchups have been scoreless draws, and the only goal that has been produced in those last 4 games has been a Rachel Daly goal.
Hmm.
If you want to think about what a throwback that is,
Yeah.
that's that's a long time ago to see a goal in this matchup being played in Houston. So I would see the same level of intensity. They are a gritty team. That's how they like to play. They like to play without the ball. They like to pressure. They like to press high. Uh, they're that type of team that just is relentless without the ball, and the moment they have it, they like to punish. That's why you see high scoring efforts against Portland, but yet draws the next week. I think
Hmm.
I I need to see the Dash control the possession and be effective with it, because if they're just passing the ball around, then Louisville is just going to strike when the iron is hot and catch one of our mistakes. Um, I see this not really being a high scoring effort. I think this is not going to turn out into a Wild West shooting spree. I think uh, the Cowboy like high scoring effort isn't going to happen. I'd rather it's going to be a defensive. It might be another 1-0 game. It might be a fourth 0-0 game in 5 games. I'm not sure, but I know for a fact that both teams are going to have to really play and bring their best, because on paper both teams are really favored for a win when you look at each other's play style.
Yeah, I think I think this is a good. I think just like the golf game, I think it's a good team that can cancel each other out. You know, or no, not yeah, golfing game that this is a good matchup that they can cancel each other out. But I think it's really interesting. I think just I think form wise, I think Houston maybe has a little advantage of them over them. I think just
Mhm.
be over them because they have won the games they should have won, and technically lose the games the Dash that they should have lost. I think my I think that the Dash has more of advantage against them because I think looking at Louisville's result, I think that the game they should have I think competed for. I think it's the Bay FC game, and they lost to them.
Oh
And
yeah.
while the Dash has competed against teams, most importantly like Angel City and KC, I think those are the 2 teams that everyone should be fearful for. And if you lose against them, I think it's like not like it's kind of obvious, but their teams are striving more and they're executing their game plan really really well. And I think
Mhm.
the Dash should continue their win streak, not just only to prove themselves. Like I think we mentioned last podcast, we're facing teams right now that are in the same area of the table that we're in,
Mhm.
and I think we beat the first hurdle with Utah. Utah and Dash had major turnover, major reconstruction, and we beat them. And that's a
Mhm.
good first sign. Now the second match here is a team just below them. uh, can the Dash beat them? And I think this will be another good test. Okay, was last game just a fluke? Was just a pure chance of luck that she had? Was the goal? Was the game decider just the between them? The difference between them? Can the Dash continue on and get another
Mhm.
result? And I think it will be up to Febreze. I think because it's hard to predict. I think I don't know you're in the same page with me. Is it? It's hard to predict for Breeze's lineup because I think he switches the lineup depending, who they're going against instead of playing on their efforts, and it has worked most of the cases, But I think we will see how his lineup will work out for this and see who will start. Messiah Bright or Diana Ordonez, Barbara or no Barbara. So it's very hard to see. But did you like? I think my question to you: you think uh, seeing Fabrice now? I think maybe has a good feel of this team. Uh, uh, you think he has a good handle of I think managing the minutes of his players and getting the best out of them now.
I think his game management has been next to none when it comes to his class. I think he's still figuring out the lineup because I think he's still figuring out his personnel.
Mm.
I don't have a doubt that he's gonna find a consistent lineup soon. I see already some staples. He likes having Jacobs in that center back to fall back. He loves having Patterson. He likes pushing Maggie a little lower on the defensive level. Even though she played as an attacking mid. Against Utah, which ended up working out really well. She normally is favored defensively, so you see these little trends that are um, kind of being more and more visible as the games go on. And so I think like this lineup is going to slowly reveal itself. I mean, if we see Barb out another game, then that'll give us a clue of like how she will fit into the system. If we see D get less minutes, well then that'll show us. So I think maybe this time around it won't be the fully fledged like cemented lineup, but I think we're certainly going to get closer to that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think, I think we're almost hitting that mark. I think you should figure out what's your best 11 already. But I think,
Mm.
I think it's one, two, three, it's 7 games in, I think, but still I think it's hard when international break comes in, like we had two weeks ago that messed up you know, that messed up the lineup of injuries and fitness and everything. But it also helped us as well because players came back with fitness. Like Deanna, like Kiki. Giving more time for them to get into fitness. But I think we just should see things go. But I think as we go on, we should see a little bit more changes and more go. I think like we mentioned last podcast, May is the hardest month. We're going to had the heavy hitters, and into June it's not going to get any easier. So
Mhm.
I think going to predictions, how, what's your prediction and why?
I'm gonna go with 2-0 win.
Mm-hmm.
I think our offense is finally clicking. I understand that Sheehan's goal, although you can classify it as a lucky one, was a long time coming. I think her creation of opportunities and chance creation very well throughout the game. I think other players were contributing to it, despite our lacking when it comes to one-on-one chances. Our transitional play was getting much better, and that's something that was both defensively and offensively. And so I think we might be able to notch a couple of goals against a team that doesn't necessarily like to play on the ball. So if we can really if we can approach it that way, then I think we can definitely slip through their cracks defensively and notch 2 goals.
Yeah, I think so. I'm on the same boat. I think I see a 2-1 go. I think there'll be some changes on the lineup. Hopefully, Natalie Jacobs comes back in. I think
Hmm.
her with the spits on her injury, her knock is really is, move coming in. But I think her coming back to the lineup will have a huge boost. But also, it's gonna have tweaks to other positions on the lineup. I still want to see Maggie on that wing again because I
Hmm.
think her energy really, really helped the team a lot. It just really boosted everything, and it also helps us as well. I think during the game, he took Calaprico off and put, uh, I think put Maggie back in that sixth position and put Barbara and Deanna up. It just gives the team more versatility to change the lineup mid game.
Hmm.
So I think having her high up and still having those defensive players like Calaprico and Sheehan, that's box to box, can offer more width to the team defensively and offensively. So I think it just offers that versatility. And I think as we see more and more games come up, I like to see that the games are the dash has become more fluid and more of that. I think the only thing I'm asking is consistency. It's hard to get. I think I go back to the first game, with Spirit. bad first half, good second half. I think that's like the Dash season
Mhm.
in a nutshell. We play good like the first half against Spirit and games, and there's some games like last week, that Dash played really well, and so I think it's just up to that as well to see how it goes. But I think it's gonna be a good game. I think the Dash gets second win at home, third win over the season, and it should move them up the table. And I think the teams will start getting to know us about them as well. But with that in mind, uh, Friday as well, there's going to be a bobblehead giveaway for Jane Campbell. So also don't forget if you plan to bring your dogs as well as pups night. So I think you have to get a voucher just to have your dogs to come in with staying with you. So please think of that. And also the bobblehead has dogs, Jane's dogs, in the bobblehead
Hmm.
as well. So, but I think before we sign off, Diego, how I think my last thoughts for you before uh I think we're hitting that almost hitting that 1/3 midpoint of the season. How
Yeah.
content are you with the Dash team?
How connected? Ooh, that's a great question. I think this new look team is definitely enticing me to watch every game, to pay attention, not just as a member of the media, but as a fan. Um, I was there during our first ever home playoff game when we sold out the shell, and that really was the thing that made me a Dash fan, and I think this team can bring us back to that. And I'm gonna be completely honest. It's difficult to follow the team and be invested in the team when I'm up here in New York. However, this is a special group, and I can already sense it here. And I think as things get going, as things get clicking, as the offense gets scoring, as the defense gets back to form and to health, this group is going to be something that really we haven't seen.
Yeah, I do believe you. I do believe you as well on that. So it's just to see how the team goes on and builds on from there. Another win, another win for that is going to be a huge, huge, huge.
No, 100%.
Yeah, so it's hard to see, but we just have to see it, as the time move forward and everything. But
Hmm.
we just have to take it one game at a time. It's hard, just I think we're always thinking more future, but tomorrow and Friday, just think about the Dash game to win and them moving up the table. And I think everything will you know will everything will fix itself later on. But that will be it for our podcast. It's good. It was
Hmm.
nice and short, but I think it was good to see. Just reflect on just a few points that we see with today's win, with last week's win, and hopefully, I think if another win comes out, I think we'll have even more talking points. Okay, how would this team will be moving
Hmm.
forward, especially. I think the next game after that, it's no easy games after this,
No.
but so what? Thank you for all for tuning in. And next week, what are you gonna look for next week? Of course, we're gonna recap about the game of Racing Louisville. We're bringing the preview as well to the Dash's other next game would be the Seattle Rain. I think a hard game because I feel like Houston and Seattle is always a hard game, no matter
Hmm.
Bama or Dash. And also,
Hmm.
hopefully next week, we'll bring you an exclusive interview with. We sit down with Rebecca, so we're trying to get that sorted out, so we'll be translated as well for everyone that can listen into, can read the subtitles. And she has really interesting stuff to say. That's the only thing I'll let you tease on that, but off of that. But before we sign up, we'd like to always to encourage you to always visit our site, biocitySoccer.net. Always look for us at Twitter or X, BioCity Soccer, Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky as well. We thank our sponsors, Ugly Guppy and Elotes Bravos, for everything they do. Diego, what do you want to say to people before we sign off?
I just want to say keep supporting the Dash, keep holding it down. I was telling Manny before the show started that next episode next week will be the last week I will be away. So starting next week, I will be back in the stadium and I will be happy to join you guys and be a part of the Houston community once again, fully. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, so that's another reason to go to the games to see Diego. Diego will
Hey,
be there. Diego will be there.
gotta see the dream team reunite. That's a big ticket event right there.
Yeah, so you see if you see fireworks, that's because it's us. That's why. I'm
Oh
but
my
yeah, but I think most important we want to see the Dash win. So that's the most important thing. But no, thank you all.
god.
Thank you all for tuning in for another edition. Hopefully you can come back and that we can talk a little bit more of the Dash, and hopefully we'll be more positive and see how they climb up the table. But it's for thanks all. See you next time.
Um,